Hi, I'm Tom Donahue, and of course, host and mayor for the City of Rutland, host of From the Mayor's Desk here at PEG TV. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate you tuning in. This is, again, my way of communicating with the public. I had said previously, and like a broken record, I want to say that I'm going to be the communicator in chief. That being that there's a lot going on in the City of Rutland and our region, and there's a lot of detail that goes with each thing. And I thought it was important for me to communicate those facts and details to the public. This is one of the ways through our great community access television here at PEG TV, a tremendous asset to our region. And so I'm taking advantage of that, as well as getting on the radio and some great interviews with the Rutland Herald and others. So we'll continue to do this. Thank you again for tuning in. Let's get started. So one of the things I wanted to mention, I like to say some of the good news, and I made note that I like to talk about businesses opening through our Business Incentive Assistance Program, also called BIAP, but it's Business Incentive Assistance Program, through the Rutland Redevelopment Authority, and then subsequently through the Board of Aldermen. There was a recommendation to approve a portion of the funding to get a new business started in downtown Rutland. It's called Amazing Glaze Pottery, and it'll be opening at 25 Center Street this summer. Congratulations to Brooke Hemingway and Amazing Glaze Pottery on receiving that grant and opening in downtown Rutland. So I'll leave it at that, because PEG TV does have rules around promotion and of for-profit things, and I agree with that regulation, because we don't want this to be like any other TV channel with lots of commercials. So we're going to leave it there, but again, congratulations, exciting. Every time I can mention a new business opening in Rutland. And if I'm aware of any closings, I have told you before, I'll repeat it, that I'm going to mention those too, because we really want to look at how we're doing and progressing forward, and we can only do that if we're measuring it by the net openings, not just talk about openings and ignore the closings. So with that, another opening, another exciting day in Rutland. Now, nitty gritty, I just wanted to tell you, I just came from the Department of Public Works down on Spruce Street in Rutland, where I met with Dan McIntyre and Bob Protovansky, who's our Commissioner of Public Works, and was looking at the salt shed. This past winter, as everyone is aware, that we were low on salt, never completely ran out, only because they had to start managing it. But it became a nationwide shortage that we experienced here in Rutland and throughout the country, throughout the Northeast. And Dan did a great job of managing that issue and making sure that we never completely ran out, but we had to utilize sand and then do a blend, which isn't ideal at all. It raises havoc with the trucks as it is distributed. It raises havoc with our streets. They're cleaning those streets. The street sweepers have been out. They're not even done yet, and we're almost to June. And there's more to be done yet, because the sand remains. And it also goes into our treatment plant and can raise some havoc over there. So, that is the right step for the public safety and keeping our streets safe throughout these winters and the vagaries of these winters, which we just can't really predict very well. But it was an impact of a nationwide shortage. So I was looking at the current salt shed, which is kind of already, it's been around since 2013. It's kind of already used its useful life, and it's smaller, holds about 750 ton of salt, and am looking at a much larger shed being put on that property that would come out of our capital improvement program. And so that is something that I will be bringing forward as we get more into the detail of that. I'm happy to share with you, the public, what the plan is. But the ultimate goal would be that we never not only run out of salt, but we also never end up having to blend with sand again, which has created such a situation. That we're able to have the adequate salt to keep our streets safe for the entire winter from snow and from ice, and that they're safer to drive on. There's 76 miles of streets in the city of Rutland, 76 miles of streets that need to be maintained. The trucks went out this year, the crews, some 41 times this past winter to take care of those 76 miles of streets. So it's a lot, and we want to make sure we have adequate facilities at our Public Works Department and for the crews to be able to do their jobs going forward. So we're looking at how to resolve last year's problem so it never occurs again. So that's something I did this morning. I also wanted to mention that it's been No Mow May, I guess, around Rutland City. That's a thing where, and it's related to the bees, but where people don't mow for the month. I, for one, am glad that we're almost to June and No Mow May is almost over, because lawns do get a little high. Sometimes at the intersections it gets hard to see oncoming traffic and things like that. So I've already mowed about 4 times my own lawn, so I know how much it's been growing. And but I only bring that up because around town, one of the issues that we have currently is blighted properties. And the Board of Aldermen will be taking that up further to expound or expand on the current ordinance through the Charter and Ordinance Committee, and that Alderman Alex Adams is chair of. And that'll be occurring in June because we do have an issue with blighted properties in Rutland right now. And the more I've been driving around, I get complaints, concerns expressed to me from various members in the community that live in some of those neighborhoods that are affected. I don't blame them for being upset about some of the conditions that they're living with and next to or around. And I think we need to set our bar higher than it currently is in that respect. Years ago, Pat Leahy and I walked the Northwest neighborhood when we actually were looking at identifying that as a target neighborhood for Rutland West Neighborhood Housing Services, that then became NeighborWorks and is now part of Cornerstone Housing Partners. And the whole idea was, you start fixing up a neighborhood and it's catchy, and it begins to get fixed up around you as well. Because it's a pride in the neighborhood and your housing and your yards and so forth. It worked, and the opposite of that, I believe, is true. And when we lower our bar and let properties become blighted, some of which I have to say are owned by out-of-state owners, which is just I don't want to tolerate that. I think that this is not the place for that, and Rutland City is not the place that should be allowing that to occur. We want to have pride in our community, pride in our neighborhoods. A lot of people invest in their houses and so forth, and places around them shouldn't be dilapidated or let go by those tenants, those owners, or even worse, by out-of-state owners. So it's time to address that, and I think that beefing up this ordinance will help us as we go forward to enforce those regulations and address those concerns in various neighborhoods throughout the city. So more to come on that as well, but I wanted to tee that up because I think it's very important that we start to address blighted properties in the city of Rutland. It's kind of enough is enough scenario for me. And speaking enough is enough scenario for me, crime and drug enforcement is always on my mind. It's something that I had talked a lot about in my aldermanic campaign and then again in my mayoral campaign, because it has a lot to do with economic development. It has a lot to do with people moving and living in Rutland. It has a lot to do with growing our workforce, locating families here. We have great schools, a tremendous recreation department, a beautiful city. Crime cannot be one of those things that deters people from wanting to live, work, and invest here. And our police department is doing an excellent job. However, it has its challenges, based on the size of our force, which we're trying to continually grow. I signed a new employee application approval just yesterday. We're going to continue to keep the force at full strength and respond to those calls, but be proactive as we can, because Rutland also can't be known, not just about blighted properties, but Rutland also can't be known as a place that is okay to be a drug dealer. It's okay to be a criminal. You can get away with it here. I'm here to tell you can't. And our police force is laser focused on making sure that that we're identifying those hot spots, if you will, and that crime is not going to be tolerated here. Crime is probably always going to exist as it does in every community throughout the country, but tolerating the drug dealing, tolerating the crime that comes with that oftentimes, and the people that it attracts to our community is not tolerable. And I, for one, want to make sure that I'm backing the police department in addressing that. They are doing it very strategically. They don't always do it publicly, but I can assure you they're doing it, and they have my full support, because this is a community I love. It's a community I grew up in. I have kids and grandkids in this community, and the reputation for public safety that I've talked so much about is what I intend to achieve for Rutland. The opposite is not acceptable and just won't be tolerated. So more to come on that as we go forward. In fact, there will be a RutStat, which is the Rutland Statistics meeting on Tuesday that I will be attending. And I'd like to dedicate a good part of my program next to talking about the statistics that they're collecting, which really reflects all the hard work that they do in a 2-week period, so every 2 weeks. Because it's pretty impressive, a lot of hard work. They're very difficult jobs, but they're doing them well. And then they're quantifying that data, and it helps them to do that sort of directed patrols, proactive policing based on what the statistics are telling us about areas, about times a day and days a week and weeks of the month and so on. I look forward to sharing more of that with you for the first time, and I'll do that on the next program after this next RutStat meeting I'm going to attend at the Rutland City Police Department in a couple of weeks. I've also been speaking at the Project Vision meetings and haven't missed one yet, as well as attending the Police Commission meetings that I just kind of, I don't participate as much as support what they're doing and listening and learning, so that that team of people, your police commissioners, can do their jobs working hand in hand with our police department. So I enjoy attending their meetings as well. All this makes me knowledgeable about the issues and the initiatives that they've got to address the issues, so that I can make good decisions in that respect and support them in their jobs. Now, Friday, and I'll maybe have a picture at the next show too, our annual sort of memorial ceremony outside of City Hall will take place at 4 o'clock to recognize the officers that over time have worked for the city that have passed away. If you ever look on the corner of Washington and Merchants Row right there, Strong's Avenue, right across from the Bardwell, right outside of City Hall, you'll see the monuments there engraved with the names of those that have left us. But I looked at that yesterday and gosh, brought back memories, because gosh, I have a great uncle on there, I have a second cousin and godfather, also men and women that I have known over time, dating back. To see their names there just brings back really great memories of those individuals and the commitment to the service and the role of police enforcement that they provided to this community over historically since the late 50s. I believe it starts with that with the names on the monument. So there is a ceremony that will be taking place Friday at 4 there, and everyone's welcome, but I'll make sure we have a picture for the next show, because we certainly want to recognize, and I want to give credit to the Police Benevolent Association that organizes that, recognize those officers historically, and even leading up to most recent times that have left us and had provided that kind of service to this community. police enforcement in Rutland. Anyway, that is something that I'm looking forward to attending. I also wanted to mention, of course, construction is going on. It's construction season. There is a portion of the city that has what they call utility patches, is one of the terms I saw. There's about 20 that occurred. Those are breaks that happen, and they continue to happen. There was another one last night on Brown Street throughout the city because of water pressure, and then of course the frost and so forth throughout the winter wreaks havoc. You know, the big burst we had on Woodstock Avenue, which was a big problem, addressed by our DPW, a lot of hard work. Long story short, right now they're out doing the patches. The asphalt plant is open finally, thank goodness, and so now you'll see those patched, actually paved over, which is great. I was happy to see one on Maple Street yesterday, and also drove over to see the one that was accomplished on Temple Street, which leads up to Northeast School, because it ends up having to be SurePack on top, but gets worn away and it becomes kind of rubble in there that you have to drive over, and it's dirty as well as bumpy, and that has to exist, unfortunately, until the asphalt plant opens. And once it's open, then they can go out and start patching these up and doing it with the steamroller, so it's really nice. So those got accomplished and are being accomplished now as we speak. But I was happy to see a couple of them in person that were done, especially the one by Northeast School. And then I also wanted to mention the construction, of course, big construction on Madison Street as they replace those water and sewer lines, and then they'll be putting down some paving. And that is going and folding right into Morse Place. I drove down Morse Place last night. They've got some paint in the streets and some equipment there. That's going to be happening soon. It will be very disruptive for a time, but it'll be worth waiting for. Morse Place has waited long enough on that street to get accomplished, and we're excited to get it done finally. There may be a point, and look for signage if this occurs, that there may be a point where they allow some two-way traffic on Morse. So depending on where the construction is happening, and particularly for the neighbors, that you might be able to go up or down the street to exit onto Washington or Madison, just so that that's more user-friendly during the construction period. But watch for signs on that. Those will be forthcoming. I did stop over at see our traffic guards at the corner of Grove and Library Avenue the other day, because they were the ones urging us to reduce that speed to 25 miles an hour around the Rutland Intermediate, Rutland Middle School. We did get that accomplished, so be aware. I mentioned it on the last show, but we will be enforcing the 25 mile an hour speed limit around the schools. Signs are up at Northeast, Northwest, and the more important one, because of the volume of students and because of the speed of the traffic on Grove Street, unfortunately, those needed to be slowed down a bit. So you'll see new 25 mile an hour signs around Rutland Intermediate, Rutland Middle School, keeping those traffic guards safe as they exit the kids. They have to then exit the street. And as I mentioned before, we added about 5 more seconds to the crosswalk, so they had a little bit more time, but they still have to get from the middle of the road where they are, once the kids are all safely across, back. So I popped over to see them. They were happy that we had accomplished that. We are going to make it more of a school zone, which will come later, but we wanted to take this step now because it was something we could accomplish quickly. So hopefully everyone there will be safer. That kind of transitions into this public input meetings list that's going to be going on, and we'll put it on your screen for you. But there is a Safe Routes to School travel plan, and that is taking public input. Join us at one of our public meetings and meet at the main entrance to each campus, the first one being high school in Stafford, Monday, June 1st at 6 o'clock. The second being Northwest Primary School, Tuesday, June 2nd at 6 o'clock. Third, Northeast Primary School, Thursday, June 4th at 6. And the last, Intermediate Middle School, Tuesday, June 9th at 6. As they put in this is through the Regional Planning Commission, Rutland City is studying ways to improve safe access to our public school campuses. Our goal is to make walking and biking to school safer for kids. Join us at a public meeting and walk on it. Share your thoughts on how to make travel safer to all Rutland City school campuses. The idea is, people are the ones using it every day, whether parents, kids, grandparents. The input would be valuable, so you can meet us at any of those dates and participate for a little while they do that study and look at possible improvements in and around each one of our schools for safety. Safe Routes to School travel plan, upcoming. Along those same lines, I did want to mention about the Center Street plans, still taking input. Those were unveiled last week. There was an article in the newspaper, but we do need to do more outreach. Not everyone was able to attend that meeting at the Hub on 67 Merchants Row in Rutland that night. But it was a good plan, laid out 3 options for Center Street revitalization. I like all 3, so as I say, I'm not stuck on one. The reason there's 3 is there's a couple of different versions of a one-way street. And then there's the revamping of the two-way street that exists now. And they were quite interesting, and one of the things I liked about was sort of in the street, creating a bit of a grand entrance to the Paramount, which is attracting 100,000 people a year. And so I love that element of it. Talked to Eric Millette briefly about it. He said, yeah, let's make it even bigger. And I didn't hate the idea because it's such a centerpiece for downtown Rutland, and we certainly do want to highlight it and make it easy to cross back and forth. I was at a dance recital just last weekend, and it was a packed house, and that is a day or night, that is the destination for literally 100,000 people. So we want to make sure that Center Street design reflects that gem in the middle of Center Street and there, middle of our downtown. But anxious to be putting out more information on those 3 versions of preliminary plans so that we can continue to get the public input that is needed, and also what I call the stakeholders input, the business owners that work there. People live downtown, people work downtown, people own and invest in downtown. Their input is really, really critical to the version that ultimately would be selected. So more to come on that, but stay tuned and participate if you can. We want your input. It's really, really important. Along those lines, some real good news. The Rutland Regional Plan through the Rutland Regional Planning Commission was approved last week. Very, very important. This will now go to the Land Use Review Board for their blessing, which can take up to 60 days. We're hoping that it's a lot sooner. Let's move that forward. Because Ed Bove, our Director of Planning for the City of Rutland, and I will be submitting a Tier 1A exemption for the City of Rutland. It's an application. I've talked about this several times before, but I'm only mentioning it again because it's not only so important to Rutland City's growth going forward, but it's also now possible because the Rutland Regional Plan is approved. So that's a milestone. Great job by Devin Neary and his team at the Rutland Regional Planning Commission and all those planning commissioners from around the county, including Rutland City Board President for the Board of Aldermen, David Allaire, who sits on the commission as representing Rutland City and voting yes for the regional plan recently. So thank you for accomplishing that because the Tier 1A application from the city to the Land Use Review Board next will hopefully be the first one in the state. And if we subsequently receive that approval, we could be the first one with that approval in the state. What a great calling card that's going to be for the city to be able to say we have control over our development of any size within the city, virtually all the city, for housing, commercial development, and industrial development. And that doesn't mean that we just start swinging hammers and going wild in Rutland. We have zoning, we have subdivisions, we have a master plan. We have a planning commission, we have a director of planning, we have zoning and building inspectors as well as code enforcement. We have a development review board, the DRP, We have an architectural review board, and of course the Rutland City Planning Commission. So we have plenty of measures in place to make sure that growth is by design. What we don't need is the Act 250 layered on top of that for larger developments. It slows down projects, it makes them cumbersome, unpredictable, untimely, very expensive for developers, and without and having that local control that over those projects going forward, that'll be a huge calling card for us to be able to attract economic development and investment in our community, both in housing growth and commercial development growth. I said it during my campaign, it's a centerpiece for me. We must get this accomplished, and we must do it this summer, and I would love to be the first in the state. So that is brought up again to you tonight because the Rutland Regional Plan was approved earlier this week, and that is some great news because one follows the other. Along those same lines, I've got more appointments to the Rutland City Planning Commission. So the next segue real quick is just talking about those appointments. I've got 3. Susan Starr Adams is a reappointment to the Planning Commission. She served out a term. I've appointed her to her new term. The Board of Aldermen has tabled that by charter for 2 weeks. They'll take it up Monday, and I hope that she'll be returned to the Planning Commission. That puts us at 5. We need to grow to 7. I have also nominated Jeff Gavin, who is a local attorney and has Planning Commission experience and works in downtown Rutland, as well as a familiar name and face to you as well, Roy Thomas, former Rutland City Alderman, also former member of the Rutland City Planning Commission. We're going to bring Roy back into the team. Those 2 nominations will go to the board on Monday night, get tabled, and they'll be taken up the second meeting in June. That'll get the Planning Commission back to full strength. I'm excited to be able to find great people to serve in these roles as we build the team back again, fill the slots, and get to full strength. So that's the latest on those. Our city attorney, of course, was appointed, but then confirmed by the board on an 8-1 vote, 9 people voting that night. Very happy about that. He came to work the very next day. I loved the scene as I looked out from the clerk's window. I was down meeting with Tracy Kapusta for a moment and looked out the window, and there's the new city attorney coming across the street in the rain with a stack of law books, carrying them into the office with him, and it was a sight to behold. So very exciting. He's working out great. I have some great meetings with him already. The team at City Hall has been meeting with him, and he is turning out to be as advertised, as I like to say. We're happy to have Kevin Gustafsson on the team with us as the new city attorney. Now, fully approved by the Board of Aldermen. Thank you to the Board of Aldermen for approving my appointments. I'm trying to select good people. Tomorrow I'll be attending the graduation ceremony at Stafford Technical Center. I also spoke last week at the Rutland Area Christian School at their Memorial Day ceremony. What a great job they did. And Post 31 had their, American Legion had their color guard there. It was a great ceremony. I was honored to be able to speak at the beginning of that. I'm also reading over at the Northeast School today with Picnic and a Book. So I have a lot of hard work I do, and I'd like to sprinkle in a few fun things just to keep me motivated. Last thing I want to mention, going forward, or last 2 things I should say real quick, going to try to throw a tidbit in at future shows, I should say, of interest. Next show I'm going to talk about the City Seal and also the City Report. But in the meantime, let me wrap up by just saying June 6th, Summer Street Party in downtown. June 20th, Rutland County Pride Festival downtown. June 21st, Father's Day, Rutland City Band kicks off. June 24th, 7 to Sunset Concert Series kicks off. That runs through July 29th with rain dates of August 5th or 12th. And the 250th anniversary of our country's celebrating July 3rd and 4th in concert with the town of Rutland on the 3rd and our big fireworks on the 4th, followed by August 4th National Night Out, now moving to the fairgrounds because of a little disruption project down at Meadow Street we're aware of. That'll be August 4th from 4 to 7. And as I said, I'll be attending the Rutstat meeting Tuesday and the Board of Aldermen Monday. I'll have reports for you on those at the next program. And with that, we're out of time. I hope this was informative. Really appreciate this opportunity on PEG TV. And I really appreciate all of you watching from the mayor's desk. I'm Tom Donahue.